everybody. This is Jess from 3D Learning Experts, and you're listening to the LD Experts Podcast, the show for busy parents who want to help their kids with learning disabilities, or as I like to say, learning differences, go from surviving to thriving. Dori, thank you so much for meeting with me today. I am so excited to share with our audience how music can change the life of a neurodiverse person.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for having me. I love talking about drumming. Obviously, I'm in my drum room. How drums will travel. A lot of people don't understand what I do at all because they've never heard about drum therapy.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to share about it because after we met last time, I tried to tell my husband about it because if you remember, I was thinking of maybe creating a class of my husband and my children. And my husband just looked at me like, no, that doesn't sound like something I want to do. And so I said, okay, I am not even going to move on to the rest of the family. I am going to wait for this interview so you can explain how drumming therapy works. So first, tell us, I don't know if you should start with your background first or just tell us what you do first. You tell us what you think is the best thing to start with.
All righty, just to let everybody know and to inspire people, age doesn't matter, okay? I have worked with people from ages 4 to 100. And if you can count, you can do this. It's not a drum lesson, so don't pay attention to the drum set in the background or the conga drums. Those are for me. I use them to practice and perform. I started out auditioning for a church band. I'm in North Carolina in the Raleigh area. There's a lot of contemporary churches where it's music and a message, and they play, typical rock style music, except it's Christian. So there you go. So I did not have any lessons. I had no experience whatsoever. I was 47 years old. It's quite some time ago. Yes, I'm that old. I have 3 grandkids. People keep up with me. And so I just signed up to audition. I showed up. The whole band's there. Did not know that they had all played professionally before. And then there was me. I just knew, well, I'm just going to follow the drummer. I'm going to follow the beat. I'm going to jump in and rock out with them. And I was able to keep the beat pretty well. Keep in mind, I'm a former dancer. I knew I had rhythm. I loved tapping jazz as a kid. I was always the kid who was moving a lot. Drumsticks, I didn't have them at home. So I used pencils, wooden spoons, anything that I could get my hands on, including silverware, became drumsticks. I was the kid who was tapping her feet all the time. So my dad had a friend who said, you need to give her some dance lessons. I did ask for drums, but my dad said, no, drums are too noisy and girls don't play drums. So for you, those out there who are young, believe it or not, there were no female drummers when I was a little kid. Anyway, not until the 70s when Karen Carpenter came around and she was playing drums in her brother's band. And then they moved her up to vocals because she was also a really good singer. But all the bands out there, all guys. I thought, no, I wanted to give it a try. Why should the guys have all the fun? I had to wait till I was 47. Our son, meanwhile, had learned how to drum. He had really good rhythm too. We put him in our daughter's band. We were homeschooling at the time. She needed a drummer. We switched him from piano lessons to drums because we knew he'd be a really quick study, and he was. So there they were, age 11 and 14, I think, playing gigs because I was booking them, and they eventually started making money. But it was always our kids, had the musical ability. I thought it skipped a generation until I realized, hey, wait a second now, I can hold my own. And as I was playing during the first few rehearsals, by the way, after the first rehearsal, they said, we'll see you on Sunday. So I passed the audition and I played with them for, 13 years, I do believe. And we had a blast. Eventually started playing locally with local cover bands and backing up solo artists just for fun, mainly. But I was playing hand drums, so conga drums like the ones right there in the back, and bongos. I have a set up at my church, so I don't have the full setup here. standing and playing. Think Sheila E., except without the stilettos. I can't play in heels. And I was just keeping the beat and going along. And I realized, whoa, this makes me feel both relaxed and energized at the same time. And back then I had a tutoring and consulting business. I actually had two businesses while we were homeschooling. So people, you can do this. I homeschooled the two kids. They started out at ages 6 and 9. And as they got older, they didn't need me as much. And I was able to do tutoring and educational consulting in the afternoon and book the young rock bands on the weekends, because word of my ability to get gigs expanded, and towns actually started asking me to organize their teen band nights. So yeah, I was juggling all of that. And one of my tutoring students said, "Oh, Miss Dori, that's exactly how Ritalin and Adderall make you feel." And I went, "Whoa, okay, well, we might have a natural solution." So I began testing it out with my tutoring students. I was doing SAT math and language, English at that time, and different other tutoring for younger students. So my SAT math students, extremely bright, but very stressed out. I was doing private tutoring in my home. And once I found out that they were blowing their math problems on any given day, I would say, "Hey, what's going on with you today? You did really well last week. What's going on now?" "Oh, Miss Dori, I can't focus worth beans. I'm so stressed out. You know, I got college applications. I've got my exams. I got my parents bugging me, all this pressure." You know, you're thinking about the David Bowie and Queen song, aren't you? Do, under pressure. And so I said, "I have a great idea. Would you mind if we did something fun for 5 or 10 minutes? What do you think?" What kid's going to say, "Nah, I'd rather sit here and do my math problems"?
Right.
And no kid ever. What we did is I had a few of these. This is a djembe. It's spelled D-J-E-M-B-E. You don't pronounce the D. So I don't do African drumming and I don't do drum circles. I do rock beats on a djembe because these are easy for me to take places. I have a lot of them now. I've got about 20 now. You can lift it with 2 fingers. It's a synthetic base with a goat skin head, and it has a really good sound. So I just created what I call brain integration techniques. I used to do stretching exercises with the younger kids to music, but I knew that teens would really go for this, especially the guys. Who doesn't want to hit a drum? I mean, really. So they sat across from me. It was me and one student sitting in my living room. They had one of these and I had one. I said, "Just watch my hands and follow my beats. If you can count, you can drum. This is not a drum lesson. I'm not training anyone to go on tour with Santana or Bruno Mars anytime soon, although that would be fun." It's like, just relax, take some deep breaths. And we would just start with, basic heartbeat kind of thing. And then they would get nice and relaxed, and I would just add different beats to it. There we go. The harder you hit it, the better it feels. Now, did you see how easy that was? 5 beats total is all I went up to. Mm-hmm. Okay, can everybody count to 5? I think so. Again, 4-year-olds, folks can keep up. All you need to do is follow my easy beats and rhythms. And I tell people the way that this works, because I play by ear, by the way. I've never had any lessons. I can read music now, but I choose not to, because drumming music is like really confusing. I would rather just hear it, you feel it, and you play it. So kids on the spectrum, by the way, have very good rhythm, generally speaking. Do you know why?
No, why?
Rhythm is on the right side of your brain.
Ah.
And so is autism.
Okay.
It connects.
Well, and when you said that you don't read music, or you can, but you don't, reading music is very hard for people with dyslexia.
Right.
So that's great that that's not something that one needs to do.
Not at all. You just hear it, hear the beats. And I do follow the leader at first, just to test their ear. Some people catch on faster than others. And I can always tell, I tell people, this is a great health and wellness tool for both boosting your mental and physical health, but it's also for me a diagnostic tool. I can tell a lot about somebody by the way they drum, right? So if I get a student who I'll do, okay, we're going to play follow the leader. Are you ready? I'll tap out a beat, wait for it, and then you repeat the exact same beat. Ready? Here we go. And they give me back, or else I'll do, and that it's always one beat less or one beat more, and they're off. And then I know I might possibly have a child with an auditory processing problem.
Mm.
They're
Wow.
not hearing what I'm asking, and they're not following the beat. And this is somebody who would, mix up things that you tell them. Like you say one thing and they assume it's something else. That is really, really highly prevalent in your right-brained learners. Again, when I was tutoring, I was focusing on, well, I wasn't, it just happened naturally. The kids gravitated to me. Parents found me. I tested all of the kids from 1995 onward, about 20 years worth of students. So we're talking hundreds of kids. All the kids that came to me for tutoring, with the exception of one or two, were right-brained dominant. All of them. And at the time, all of them were, well, I'd say the majority of them were on the gifted spectrum. There you go, folks. Nobody ever talks about that. Really high levels of IQ, creativity, and sensitivities. You combine all three of those and you have the makings of a highly gifted child. A lot of them get mislabeled though, because nobody knows what giftedness is. And they get labeled and recommended for all kinds of stimulants. So I created a theory called the gifted ADHD connection, and we uncovered the underlying issues that were triggering ADHD symptoms. I'm not saying the symptoms don't exist, they do. I'm just saying that I needed to know what were the triggers, and they were always different, and it was always something you didn't expect. And I would refer them out to, allergists, chiropractor. Some of them just needed vision therapy.
Wow.
Yeah, it was always something different. People nowadays assume that just because you're hyper, by the way, ADHD in my book stands for a definitely hyper drummer. There you go. ADD in my book is a delightful dreamer. There you go, and I'm both. But I always tell kids that, don't let the labels get to you, because they all have gifts and strengths, and sometimes it's what people have no idea because nobody bothered to check. So I do a combination of mentoring, motivation, and music in the form of drum therapy. Drum therapy is a science-based healing modality. It's backed by loads of scientific research. I am the one and only certified drum therapist in the state of North Carolina, and only one of 3 in the South. So if you've never heard of drum therapy, that is why. It's not the same as music therapy. It's definitely not African or shamanic drumming or anything like that. It's not energy medicine. It's just a different way to recalibrate things, to help kids focus, feel better, and find their joy, and also adults. I work with adults as well.
And you said that the person who certified you is dyslexic.
Yes, he was, and he's a metal drummer. He formed an organization known as Drums and Disabilities. Now, when I trained with him, he uses a drum pad and drumsticks, which is fine. But for me, it felt more like a drum lesson, number one. It's great for coordination because you're taking drumsticks and you're tapping on a round surface, like the top of this would be a drum pad. And you're just tapping away. I have one here, but I don't want to get up and ruin the screen here. So he did that, and I said, here's the thing though. When you hit a djembe, it's got 3 different parts to it, 3 different sounds. If you hit the middle, which is the bass, all about that bass. Yeah, there we go. The bass tone has the biggest bounce and the biggest vibration, especially if you have one like that's an animal skin and not synthetic. And that matters because the vibrations go through your body. They go through the room. They can rattle fluorescent lights. I've done it. And the sound waves really do promote healing. I've had adult clients who tell me that they sleep better, they have less stress, less anxiety. People came in with shoulder pain, for example, and it was gone after one session. Anxiety, depression, PTSD. a girl with a seizure disorder, nonverbal kids on the spectrum, all kinds of different issues. And I always say, what's going on with you today? I got a beat for that because everything's customized to the individual, the group, or the organization.
That's so amazing that drumming can have so many health benefits and
Yeah.
physical benefits, and the fact that you picked up on all of these while you were tutoring your students is
Yeah, I had
amazing.
no idea that this field existed. I had no idea about the history of drumming at all. It's been used for centuries by African tribes and Native American tribes for the following three reasons: communication, celebration, but also for healing. They
Wow.
knew. And here it's, at first people were looking at me like, what? You doing what? You got an MBA. What are you doing with this drumming thing? You should be a business coach. Yeah, I was for a while, but this is more fun.
And so what is your theory for giftedness and ADHD?
Well, if you look at the diagnostic criteria for ADHD in the DSM-4, right? The Psychologist's Bible. Look at the symptoms. Compare it, and I've actually done this on the screen. Compare it and put the characteristics of giftedness on the other side, right? Now you got them side by side, and guess what? They're exactly the same.
ADHD and giftedness, you're
The
saying?
characteristics
Ah,
are exactly the same. So in many cases, that's when you have to delve a little deeper because not everybody who has, hyperactivity or they can't focus also has a high IQ and high levels. They're not necessarily in the gifted category, but it's just so funny how what one person thinks is negative, it can also have a positive spin to it if you focus on the positive and you encourage these kids and you tell them, hey, maybe you can't do whatever math or something that's sequential, because sequential step by step things can really bust their brain cells there and make them go into overdrive. Okay, maybe that's difficult for you, but look how easy this is. I mean, and I often tell both women and kids, see, you came in here having no idea what this was or what to do with it, with zero experience. And I just taught you how to rock out, because we always rock out at the end of a session or a class to a tune that either I pick out or they suggest. It's got to be positive, it has to have a good beat, and it has to be clean. That's how I roll. I said, I just taught you how to play. I don't know, we played Rush because I had a special needs class. They said, Miss Dori, do you know Tom Sawyer by Rush? I went, oh, on a djembe. All right. I've played Metallica. I, I've played, BTS for your pop kids, Santana, you name it. We always close out with a rockin' tune. I said, see, and you didn't even know how to play. And look at you rocking out now. And it really boosts their confidence. And I tell them, so imagine what else you can do. You just got to unlock those neural pathways so they can focus better. You're syncing up the left and right hemispheres of the brain.
and so how long does it usually take for people to start seeing the benefits?
Well, it depends on the individual. Number one, how open they are to this, especially the adults. If they come in and they're being all skeptical and they're like wondering what's the science, or they're counting, they're thinking it's like more of a music lesson. One lady was asking me, are you doing like quarter notes there, Dory? I'm like, oh, please, let it go. Let it go. Just listen and drum. She was getting too technical. So when you do that, you can't receive. You have to be in the position to say, okay, this is really way outside the box, but let me see what I can do here and how this works. And it usually takes, by session 3, I usually see some sort of shift by the 3rd session. I ask them to go at least 8 sessions with me, those who are working with me privately, because then I can ship them one of these babies. Because I have an arrangement with the drum company, Toka Percussion, and I get a good deal on them. So, I'll give them a drum if they can stick with me for 8 sessions, because they need to practice at home in between sessions, at least 15 minutes, at least 3 times a week. So if I have a parent who's like working 2 jobs, they have to realize that you have to help your child, especially the younger ones. You can't expect them to remember to practice because they won't, even if I send them like a practice sheet. So if they can't commit to practicing, that boosts the results. This is a health and wellness tool that they get to keep, but it's just like an exercise program. You can't expect to go to the gym once and lose 50 pounds. Not going to happen. Sorry. You have to keep at it on a consistent basis so you can feel the results. And usually by the 8th session, they're doing pretty well. Sometimes they re-up and they keep going for another month or 2 or 3, depending, because some of the teens actually also need somebody to talk to. And they're feeling very isolated and very alone, especially your quirky kids. I say, hey, I got it. I was one. No worries. And I've had teens open up during the sessions, and sometimes what I plan to do, I'm not going to do it. We have to throw it out the window, because now what this student needs is they just need to chill out a little bit, and we need to talk and get their stress levels down and just talk about releasing their emotions on the drum, actually, which is very effective. Whether you're sad, mad, scattered, or whatever, you can let it all out on the drum.
That sounds amazing for a couple of our older, our teenage autistic boys that have sometimes such a hard time getting started with tutoring because they have such anxiety and stress. And so to get through all of that so that then their channels are open to take in the information to work on their academics.
Right. It definitely lowers your heart rate, and it definitely improves your blood pressure. It boosts your immune system, and it definitely opens your mind up so that you can focus and receive information better. I've had women where it completely boosted their mindset. They were entrepreneurs who were stuck, and we needed to unlock that. It's a combination of what type of drum you use, where you hit it, and what I say during the session that helps with the progress. Sometimes, though, they might be really angry and I don't have to say anything at all. It's like, I don't have to talk a whole lot today. Let it out. You won't hurt the drum. You might hurt your hands, but these are virtually indestructible. So don't worry about it. And I told them I've been there. After my accident in 2011, when the doctors didn't believe that I was really injured, man, I was angry. And I went home and man, I drummed until my hands were beet red and tears were coming down my face because it was so frustrating. So I said, I get it. Some days you have to hit a drum. It feels really good.
And I know you also offer group classes. What is the difference of the one-on-one versus the group, like expectation wise?
Well, in a one-on-one is easier for me in a way because everything is customized to that individual completely, down to the the types of songs, because they always ask them what types of songs do you listen to, because I'm going to add some at the end. And you can hone in on things that I might need to switch up because something might not be working that particular day. With a group, it's a lot harder because you have different people with different things going on. I've had special needs groups with kids who were nonverbal, a student who was blind, really great drummer though, people with Down syndrome. You put everybody together and then it's just kind of like a fun hand drumming class. Will they get benefits from it? Yeah, but I can't hone in on individual issues like I can if we were working one-on-one. I'll always throw in some special drum therapy techniques, some fun stuff in the middle, and then we cool down at the end. I tell people it's a lot like an exercise class. Warm up, cool down, challenging stuff in the middle, and then we rock out at the end. But a group session is more for fun. They will get something out of it, but it won't be as intense. But anyway, yeah, I always tell people have some fun, whack on a drum. And you will feel residual effects from this, by the way, and they're always positive. You might feel the need to clean out your closets, believe it or not. A lot of women had the need to do that because we cleared out the static in the attic in their brain, and now they manifested it by cleaning out physical clutter. Some people they don't feel anything during the session, but they'll feel it 2 or 3 days afterwards, which is always cool. I should show you my buffalo drum while we're working. And I often close out a session with a Native American buffalo drum because it has really good vibrations. You can't feel it on your end, but trust me, this is so powerful. And when I rotate it like this, the sound waves kind of move and the sound changes a little bit. I tell people this is like a sound massage. So I might walk around a group because they're sitting in chairs in a circle. Usually, again, it's not a drum circle, and I'll walk around them at the end and say, this is your chance to receive, relax, feel the vibrations, clear your mind. And they say it really feels tingly and it feels like a sound massage. And the ladies love it anyway. Some of the kids do too.
Well, it just sounds so incredible.
Well, as far as your husband is concerned, a lot of people see these and they think, oh, lame, it looks like, African drumming or a hippie thing or whatever. And I say, nah, I'm a rock chick, so I don't know any African beats. It's not going to happen. But it is like a drum set without the cymbals. So the 8 to 12-year-olds, tough crowd, let me tell you, man. They don't hold back. They'll tell me how you really feel. This looks lame. I'm like, oh, well, glad you feel that way. Let me show you what you can do with it. And once I explain, this is a great way to start. Because playing the drum set is really hard. Trust me, you have to have a lot of coordination. You have to have a really good ear. Because the goal of a drum lesson is learning how to play the drum parts of your favorite songs. It's not the same as drum therapy. You have to learn what's the drummer doing. Okay, now he's doing this. Now we're on the cymbals. Now it's a lot together, and it's a lot for most people to process. But you start on a drum pad or a djembe, that's an easy transition, and that's how I was able to go from hand drumming to teaching myself how to play the drum set at age 59, by the way. You're all wondering, how old is she? Older than that.
So, Dori, what is the best way for people to get in touch with you for lessons or sessions?
Sure. Yeah, they can just reach out at Dori, Dori, at nextstagedrumming.com. The next stage means I'm not moving you on to the physical stage. I did that with my last business. I'm moving you on to the next stage of your life. So you can go to nextstagedrumming.com for more information. I also have a YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook. Just look up Next Stage Drumming and you'll find me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dori, for this. And maybe another time we can get on and talk about your homeschooling your children.
Yes,
we
folks,
ran out of time today.
If I can do it, you can too. It was not on my radar at all. The kids asked to get me out of school. It's too boring, and they just wanted to learn other things. And they really took off. And I was only going to do it for a couple of years. We wound up going for the whole 9 yards. And they finished high school. They got scholarships to college. So homeschooling can work. And it's not as hard as you would think. And you can individualize it for your child. You don't have to do what everybody else is doing.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Good thing.